Hey Ringside crew, welcome to the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. And now here's your host, Joe, Panther the Third.
Hello there, wrestling fans, and welcome to another episode of the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. I am Joe Panther the Third, and we're in the middle of tag team month. But I have this gentleman on. He is part of a team that's out of Canada. Let's give a warm Dudes at Ringside welcome to Mikey Truth. Welcome.
Hey, what's up? What's up? It's yours truly, the Lionheart Mikey Truth representing Dynasty. It's tag team month, but we'll be back showcasing the rest of the group real soon before the end of the month. Believe that. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem, Mikey. So, we're going to talk about you today. So, let's hear how Mikey got his start in the wrestling business. Let's go.
Oh, man. So, hey, do I have the ticket? Let me see here. This was, I don't know if you can see it here.
Yes.
This was Battle Arts Professional Wrestling Rising Star. So this was my debut. This was Saturday, September 12th, the day after my birthday, September 11th, 2020. So I was been training in and out of Battle Arts Academy, which is based at Mississauga, the Greater Toronto area, which is owned and housed and developed and funded by Santino Marella, the WWE, and Anthony Corelli. And over the years, it has evolved and has grown, and it became a collaborative effort between different promotions that have been in and out and housed, even TNA Impact when it came to Canada and in Toronto. If they weren't at Rebel, housing Rebellion, their big events, Impact was in our backyard, right? So it was the driving and the passion and seeing these things just not too far from my home. I was like, okay, there's no way that I can just turn the shy eye from pro wrestling. At first, I got into it just for exercise and just being a fan like anybody else, just enjoying pro wrestling from a young age, from being a kid and growing up into teenage and adulthood. It never left me. And then seeing that I had a training camp that was just right there, a hop, skip away from home. It was like, there's no other choice right now. Take advantage of this opportunity. So 2020, that's where it all started for me. But then the lockdowns hit and really the whole world stopped. So that put a big break on everything for me. But it put in perspective not to stop, keep it going. So there was a small collective of us. Some of them were in the group Dynasty, that being Jackson Roy, who we'd be doing like 2-3 days in the after hours when throughout the lockdown, just still doing our reps and training and following up on the fundamentals that was taught to us before everything shut down, just ironing out stuff and just creating a dynamic. And then one thing led to another, and then boom, Dynasty started to grow from there.
Wow. So for you, what was the actual moment as a kid that you saw? What was the match or the wrestler that you saw as a kid or a teen that you was like, man, this is what I want to do?
I'm lucky enough that I was able to see the transition of this, like I'm in my early 30s, so I'm 1990 born. So I was able to see that transition, not only of the tail end of the superstar era of WWF, but the transition of WWF into the WWE, and then the transition of what it is today. But I was blessed to be able to be exposed to the independence. At the time, being young, I didn't know it was the independence, but it's, in my mind, the alternative of the WWE. So I was able to see WCW, ECW, AAA, just, being lucky enough out here throughout just going through regular channels, back then TV, and being able to be blessed enough to catch that. But once the internet hit and WWE bought out WCW and ECW, and you're trying to look for what is next, like where it all come from, that's when I start to understand the independence through ROH and CZW, Evolve, Dragon Gate, that evolution, and NWA TNA, of course. That is the driving home was, okay, this is where I really want to start doing it. But if you talk about what brought me in, obviously it's the Hart family, being the Canadian homeland, seeing the transition, the success of Bret Hart, Owen Hart, and Neidhart's, the Bulldog, that whole family tree, that whole family tree that you see, or bloodline, I shall I say, in the Canadian territory of things. Seeing that success, that's always something that drove home. And then being of the smaller stature, the cruiserweight weight, seeing the Rey Mysterios of the world, and seeing the cruiserweights that were being introduced throughout not only CMLL and AAA, but introduced into WCW. That's when I'm like, okay, now this is what I really, really like to see. But on that major scale of the Bret Harts and the Shawn Michaels of that era, seeing like the Chris Jerichos and the Eddie Guerreros and the Rey Mysterios of the world, the Juventud Guerreros, Psychosis, etc. The list goes on. Seeing that element and the transition of the RVDs, the Sabus, Taz, and ECW, that's when it's like, okay, there's a whole transcend of different stars that I can relate to. The Two Cool Scorpios, the Booker T's of the world, the Harlem Heats, etc. That's when it's like, okay, there's no turning back now. Now I'm locked in. And during that era, The Rock, and seeing that rise of The Rock and Stone Cold, the transition to Rikishi, Undertaker, from the Dead Man to Badass, etc. I'm back again. Like, I was blessed enough to be growing up in that golden era of pro wrestling. So that's what locked me in. There's no turning back from there.
That's awesome, because as I was telling you before you were recording, I was before I opened the StreamYard room, I was watching like old school stuff, because I'm 40. I watched the start of the WWF and then stuff like that, and like WCW, I would come here in and out for me.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my friends would watch it, you know what I mean? And then then they didn't watch it, and then I was watching like Halloween Havocs and stuff like that, and then you got a chance to watch Fall Brawl, like those matches like that. So like when you first decided to strap on the boots and you went to like your training facility, or you probably wore the shoes, because training, sometimes you didn't get a chance to wear the boots when you first started training. So when you first walked into the training facility that you trained at, you chose to go to, what was it like? What did you think? What were you thinking? Like, were you thinking positive? Were you nervous? Were you excited? What kind of energy was in your stomach that day?
Going back to that, like it was a little bit back before 2020 years. I probably say it was like during like their opening, because now it's been the Mississauga location, and Toronto has been open for about 10 years now. So I was there during like their grand opening and senior grand open, but I wasn't training there. So I was in and out. Because I was at school. I was like going through like high school, then college, etc. So I never took pro wrestling serious. So I was just in and out just to check out the shows that are being housed at Battle Arts, and seeing the first generation of the rising stars kids grow up and seeing their first pro wrestling journey. So I was like living vicariously through them while I was building out my own life and early adulthood through college, etc. And whenever I pop in, it's just to say, hey, what's up, guys? Meeting and shaking hands and building more of a network with people there. So before I actually took it serious, I was already comfortable, because I was already cool with like Anthony Corelli's father. I was cool with like the ladies that would work in the front, like the receptionists and stuff that worked in the front. So I always had a more of a warm and welcoming. And then even at the shows that they would host, whether it's the Battle Art Pro shows or the promotions that would be in there, I was one of the guys I'd be helping out, whether it be offering to just help clean up afterwards and put away the chairs, etc. I was always giving out a helping hand. So that was kind of like my entry level of just like understanding how things worked. But I was also going around to all the other independent shows that were happening throughout Toronto. So like I was a fan, I was a diehard pro wrestling fan, and being into the independent scene globally, I dig deeper to see what was happening within my own local scene within Toronto. Knowing that Toronto is a wrestling hub, it's a big wrestling hub for pro wrestling. There had to be like a big independent scene out here. So once I figured it out, I was already making my rounds. So once I got into battle arts and really start to take it seriously around 2028, 2019, and then going into 2020 when I actually made my first in-ring debut for the Rising Stars promotion. I was kind of already comfortable in because I knew people from the older generation who were welcoming. I knew the people that worked behind the scenes or at the front desk who were welcoming. So it wasn't more so being nervous or scared. It was just now stepping up to the plate to exercise what I've already learned and from my own background knowledge of past combat art and amateur wrestling experience or gymnastic experience that I had in my back is just now putting everything to the trade. And I have an acting background as well, being a unionized actor and for TV, film, and commercial, etc. So it's just now how can I put everything together and make it make sense, especially me being more so the smallest person in those rooms. It's like, how am I going to stand out? You know what I mean? So I guess that's where like the pressure was on that sense. It's just like, I got to make something of this, especially being older too.
Yeah, like you said, you have the acting background. I guess when it came to do the promos, it came natural to you. You
Oh
didn't
yeah.
have to like get scared and be like, "Oh my god, what if they don't get what I'm saying?" You probably looked into that camera or looked into that guy that was sitting in the front row waiting for you to cut that promo, and you gave him the lifetime kind of promo. Was it like that for you?
It was a lot easier, especially the basis of my whole gimmick and character was from a video game character that I created from WWE 2K. So I don't know if you know more or less because we're both in the same game that homie on Instagram for BCW has put
Yep.
together. So like my Mikey Truth, the whole gimmick was based off the Mikey Truth character that I created off the video game and the whole cog creator wrestler community creations community. So off the top, I already had ideas for different gimmicks because I've been creating different gimmicks for different characters on my own consoles and my own game from when I was young, from when I was like 12, 11, all the way into adulthood, right? As the video games evolved and became more embracing of community creations and having that freedom to create a character and be more in depth in gimmicks and telling your story. Yeah, it was just a lot more easier for me on that end. And then, of course, having the acting background, it was very easy for me to switch the light switch off on different type of characters and improv skills, especially in times where, like, for example, at Battle Arts, we'd have different guests that come in that are in the industry. For example, like Trent Seven's been a very reoccurring face that's helped out a lot of us in coming out our skills and building out and crafting our skill sets at Battle Arts. But even Damien Sandow, yeah, big thing with Damien Sandow when he'd come into Battle Arts and would help out and would do a couple classes and take the lead. His big thing is not just learning moves and move sets. It's combing out and crafting out a character and being able to be confident and strong and standing in that ring and cutting a promo. So that's the basis of his development and character development is combing out and being present in that moment. And then my original trainer, Nick Andrews Asylum, also known as Stone Rockwell, he was big and adamant on character creation himself and Rob Smooth. Silk and Smooth was their tag team together, but they were their two head coaches that really drove the powerhouse for myself in my early stage of training. Their big thing was character development and crafting that out and being present in that moment and pitching character ideas in our mock shows that we would do before we did our Rising Star shows as students. Now in this present era for Battle Arts, the guys that have it now, they have Jody Threat, they have Shane Saber, they have John Greed, Gabriel Ferrers, Alexia Nicole, they have Mark Wheeler. They got a nice litany of talent that are growing up and prospering within the independents and are showing real-time results within their careers and their development that are helping out to craft their career character development. So throughout this whole journey, I've always been confident with the background that I had in developing this gimmick and being able to present that in front of any promotion, any booker, and just being able to trust in myself and having the confidence that just trust me, I can display this in front of a wide span of people, and it's gonna work.
Wow, that's awesome, Mikey. That like right there, you got me everything that I needed right there. All the questions
Mhm.
right there. But one last thing, like if there was any kids out there that wanted to get in the business like you, and they're just like getting the thoughts now and being in high school, they're like, oh, I've been watching Finn and Ray and Dominic doing this stuff. Like, what kind of advice would you have for them so they can want to get this started?
Um, I just say just go for it. Don't waste any time. I feel like a lot of people, not only in my generation, I feel like in each generation, passing generation, a lot of people have this subjective mindset that of second guessing themselves and doubting their abilities and what they can accomplish and do in life. I got into pro wrestling and took it seriously in my late 20s, and when I was like 25, 26, that's when I really got into everything, you know what I mean? um and really, when I mean by 25, 26, that's when I really started to actually do my first like shows and start to like really understand what is going on in this game. And now I'm 32 going on 33, right? So um don't waste that time. You have the world ahead of you in any entertainment scene, any craft, any trade, any skill set that you have, whether it's in pro wrestling or not, behind the scenes, in the ring. Um, Shoot for the stars and do it, because more chances than not, if you stay consistent, all it takes is repetition, staying consistent, having a mindset, and playing the long game, and always having a vision and small goals and reaching those small goals before you reach your big goals. Then nothing can stop you, right? Just stay to it, because that's what I did. I had a vision, I had an idea, and I put the work into it and knew that there's going to be forks in the road. I knew there's going to be obstacles. I knew there's going to be setbacks. You got to accept that, because those aren't L's in your life. Those are lessons, right? So you learn from it, you elevate yourself, and you apply it.
Awesome. So, is there any upcoming events that you and your boys are doing that you want to promote before we go?
Ooh, so just recently, we're just hot off of from this recording. We're just hot off for 24 hours from Dynasty. My boys, Jackson Roy, Sway Archer. We came in clutch in the fourth in that buzzer beater and captured the Destiny World Wrestling Tag Team Champions, beating Pleasure and Pain in record time. Um, and we came in and collected those Destiny Tag Team Championships. We've been working hard and making an impression, not only singles, but as a collective and as a unit, at Destiny Wrestling. And we finally kicked in the door with support of all the people with our campaign at Dynasty for Destiny, and it was a successfully written story. But the job ain't done here. Now it's to elevate this tag team division and take it to new heights. We got Crossbody Pro Wrestling, which you can catch on YouTube on the Crossbody Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. They have Uproar every Wednesday. We're now in season 3. We're going to be back in action this Friday and Saturday, as we're going to be shooting not only for Uproar, but we got their big event, their PLE, which is When the Smoke Clears. Myself, Jackson Roy, will be in tag team action in a fatal 4-way matchup. We're going to try to capture the Crossbody Tag Team Championships once again and become your two-time Crossbody Tag Team Champions. Then from there, we return back to IWS, which you can catch IWS on Triller Fight TV. We just wrapped up the 25-year anniversary of Uneffing Sanction, where we were in a hellacious, a wild, crazy ladder match for the IWS Tag Team Championship Gold. We unfortunately just so close, had in the grasp of my hands. We did not capture the gold, unfortunately. We lost to the Bay City Choir Boys. We faced Bay City Choir Boys and Amazingly Sweet in that ladder match. We'll be back early top of May for Freedom Fight. Dynasty will be present in that. Sway Archer will be in action for Courage Pro Wrestling on the tail end on Sunday. So we're gonna be busy on the tail end of April and going right into May, back to back with shows. But keep it locked on our socials. I am Mikey Truth on all socials, Mikey.truth on all socials, and I have updated lists of everywhere you can catch Dynasty in action.
Awesome. Mikey, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Help me show some what you guys can do in Canada in the tag team / trios. Right now it's tag team. After this episode airs, we're gonna start working on the dates to make you guys show that what you guys do in the Dynasty could do, and add the word trio in the month of May. Team month, because there's so many awesome tag teams that have been on the podcast these 4 years, and we've never had a dynasty on Dudes at Ringside podcast. You know, internationally known Dudes at Ringside always needs an awesome title. We've had tons of internationally known belts, but we've never had a dynasty. I'm Joe Panther III.
I'm Mikey Truth.
And we will catch you in the next one.
We got you. In case you leave a